Welcome to the Big Movement Podcast. If you're ready to create results and make huge strides in your business, finances, personal development, and health, then you're in the right place. Pushing past excuses and powering through procrastination can be a challenge alone. Here, you'll get the support, tools, and knowledge you need to get to the level you desire in your business and life. Let's get started with your host, Byron Ingram.
And welcome to another episode of the Big Movement Podcast. Today we have special guests. We have Maat van Uitert, who helps new and small businesses automate their sales, traffic, and visibility. She started off with being as a professional blogger and quickly realized the same skills can be used to build a six-figure blog, and she can use that to help other businesses grow and thrive. So let's give a warm welcome to Maat. Maat, welcome.
Thank you. Thank you for having me. I'm super excited.
Oh, sure, definitely. I always love, connecting with great people that have energy and excitement, and I just love to just dive in. So how in the world did you get into the world of professional blogging? Is that like, there's that career day at school ages ago, and you kind of think, all right, there's all these things, professional blogger. That sounds interesting.
Yeah, it does seem kind of like I picked it out of a hat, but it's actually really interesting. I worked for the U.S. government for about 10 years, and they made it very clear in the last few years that I had sort of hit my income ceiling, and they weren't really willing to give me anything to do. So I was just sitting there all the time. So, we were in one of those situations where we were keeping the jobs. I'm married with two kids. So we were keeping the jobs to keep the condo, keeping the condo to keep the jobs. It was sort of this very secular situation where we just weren't happy. Let's just, to make it very, very succinct, we weren't happy. And so we wanted to buy a farm. We moved back actually to where my husband grew up, and we bought this farm. We live on an organic farm. But the interesting thing that I did not realize at that time is that there's no jobs for people like me in this area. It's very blue collar, very, if you're not a farmer or a factory worker, there's not much in the way of occupations here. So it sort of led me down this path of like, well, what am I going to do? How am I going to support my family? I'm the person with the biggest earning potential, so to speak. So what am I going to do? Well, I've always been a writer. I was an editor and a writer for the government for about 10 years. So I started this blog and sort of really got immersed in this online marketing world and blogging, and really realized that, hey, you can make a lot of money doing this. It doesn't seem like you can, but once you understand like the mechanics of it, you really can.
Right. Well, that is something that's important to know, that you realized very quickly you had to do something, since you weren't going to go work in a factory or start working at a farm someplace.
Yeah, I had to. I didn't have a choice. Like I said, I'm the person with the biggest earning potential, and I'll admit it. I'm the first one to admit it. I'm kind of a workaholic. I'm not the sit at home and eat bonbons and watch TV person all day kind of person. I definitely like to work, so it was just sort of a matter of time before I found something that interested me.
And then what attracted you to blogging? As obviously, because it's a little bit different, but out of all the possibilities out there from working from home.
Well, like I said, I'd always been a writer. I had actually been blogging since about 2006. So it wasn't such a huge stretch for me to go from sort of blogging as a hobby to starting to really document our lives on this farm and our lives, as farmers and owning chickens and owning cows and all those sort of things. It really wasn't such a stretch because naturally that's just what I do. I write. It's just a thing I do, like brushing my teeth. So it really wasn't such a huge stretch for me to go from that.
Okay. Then that's obviously that makes a lot of sense, because so many times people want to do something that is far away from that skill set, but you just leverage things that you're already doing, which is really powerful.
Yeah, and that's interesting that you say that, because when I transitioned from being a blogger to helping, and I'm still a blogger, I still own the blog, but when I transitioned from that to helping people online learn how to sort of take their offline skills and bring it into the online world, it took me a minute to realize that I'd really developed all of these skills that could help people. So, it's just one of those things that happens naturally.
Right, definitely. It's something you just have to do. So when you started helping other people online, what were some of the things you realized very quickly that you're able to help them with and how you're able to best do it.
Yeah, one of my skills actually is really just getting traffic to people's websites. It's just a skill I have. My website last year, my blog got 1.5 million views in 2016 alone. So I just have the knack for figuring out how to get traffic and then how to monetize that traffic. You know, because having all that traffic is worth nothing if you can't make money off of it, right? That's what we're all here for.
Right, exactly. So let me just get this right. 1.5 million views in 2016.
Yep.
Now that's impressive.
Thank you. I'm proud of it.
Because there's probably some people thinking, wait, was that 1.5 million as in 1.5 million? And what were some of those things that you did to get there? Because there's people out there who, they're doing all these things. They're posting on Facebook, they're writing the blog post, and, they're lucky if they get their mom to look at their website.
Yeah, it's really actually very simple. Maybe it's not so simple. Maybe I think it's simple, but the two things that I did is I focused on search engine optimization, so getting found in Google, and I focused on Pinterest. Those are the two major ways that I drove traffic to my website. The thing about Facebook is that, 3 years ago, Facebook was the place to be. Now it's much more difficult to get people on your website off of Facebook. And I would say on that particular website, I got 7,000 views yesterday. Let's go with this. I got 7,000 views on that website yesterday, and probably about 40 of them were from Facebook.
Wow.
Yeah, so that gives you a little bit of an idea about how hard it is to get, traffic off of Facebook.
Right. So then the other, 6,960, what percentage of that came from Pinterest?
Yesterday, what I know is that about 1,000 of those came from Google. So I'd say the rest of them came from Pinterest. And then some of them, let's probably go with about 80% of the remaining number came from Pinterest, and the rest of it was people who just come to the blog just to see what I'm doing.
Now, that is incredible because, there's a lot of people, I think, when they hear the word Pinterest, they automatically have that mindset of, okay, there's people showing pictures of food and these recipes and little crafty ideas and stuff like that. But you're using it for business in an incredible way.
Yes. I use it, we chatted about this a bit before we started recording, but I personally don't use Pinterest for any of my personal stuff. I'm not the biggest fan of it as far as looking up for recipes and stuff goes. So I've really managed to figure out how to use it to make money, to get traffic to your site to make money. So that's really the sort of the hidden power of it that a lot of people aren't necessarily tapping into, but should be.
No, that's awesome. So then why Pinterest out of all the different platforms? Obviously Facebook, if that's not getting you the views. How did you settle on Pinterest?
It's interesting because there's actually a come to Jesus moment about it, where it was probably about this time, not this time, it was probably like November of 2015. I was really I wanted to get a lot of views on the site. I wanted to start making money to support my family. And I realized that Pinterest was my number one referrer. And I said, okay, well, let's just do more of that. Like, let's really figure out this platform, understand it, and see what it can do for us. Us being me, because I'm the only one on the website. But let's just see what it does. And that was really the point where I started to really concentrate on it, because I realized that it's already referring a portion of my traffic to me. It was probably like 50-50 between SEO and Pinterest at that point.
Mm-hmm.
And I said, it's already referring a lot of traffic to me. Let's really delve into it, because I was sort of blowing it off at that point. I was like, Pinterest sucks. Who cares about it? But it was still sending me traffic by default. And so I decided to just really concentrate on it and really figure it out. And it was literally like 1 month I got 20,000 views. The next month I got 120,000 views just from using the platform effectively like it should be used.
Wow. Now, that in itself, it's amazing. What did you do differently? Because so many people, if they're using the platform, they're happy if they just get a couple views to their pins, but you blew it out of the ballpark.
Yeah, what I did differently is I started using group boards more effectively. And we're going to get a little bit technical, jargony here, because I know that a lot of people don't really understand how Pinterest works. But I used group boards more effectively. And what I did differently is you hear a lot of Pinterest experts out there saying, share other people's content, share a greater proportion of other people's content to your content. I flipped that. I largely only promote my own content on Pinterest and use other people's content as a way to get the Pinterest algorithm to recognize that I am contributing to the platform. So a big mistake that people make with Pinterest is they think it's a social media platform, so you have to treat it like Pinch or like a Facebook where you like things, or like Twitter where you have to, retweet things. It's not really the same way. It functions more like a search engine. So as I started promoting my own content consistently, I started seeing more and more people wanting to read the articles and wanting to share them. But the key really to all of this is to have really good content on your website so that people actually will want to naturally look at it and share it.
Right. Everything always comes down to having great content, because it doesn't matter what you want to promote. If you don't have anything that's worth reading or viewing, people don't care.
Exactly. Yeah, you definitely need to make sure that it's good quality content, and also that the pins themselves are easy to read, that it's clear what the article is going to be about. So that's another common mistake that I see is people say, well, I'm sharing pins, I'm sharing these pictures, but there's no indication to the user what they're going to end up, what website they're going to end up at, and what the article is going to tell them.
Right. That's so critical, because if people don't know what's going on, they'll just go to the next thing. You look at the number of choices that are out there. It's all about captivating them to choose you versus everyone else.
Exactly. Yeah. It's very difficult. And it's not very difficult, but if you don't do it the right way, you can easily get lost in Pinterest oblivion, as I like to call it.
Right. I think there's people out there that they would say, "Oh, I'm just going to jump on Pinterest for 15 minutes." 5 hours later, whoops, and because they just got lost in oblivion.
Exactly. Yeah.
So now you're using the group boards then. So how are you doing that in terms of leveraging other people's content? Because I think people get confused. They might be thinking to themselves of, do I share other people's content, or am I posting on other people's boards? What do you mean?
Okay. So you know how Google, so the way that Google, the easiest way I can explain this is sort of explaining it with the Google algorithm, because people understand that it's a better point of reference for the people. Mm-hmm. But when it comes to the Google algorithm, what they're looking for is quality content that answers a search query. The more traffic you can drive to a particular page on your website, the better it will boost your Google rankings. And I think that most people understand that.
Right.
It's the same thing with Pinterest, but it has the added little bit of when you promote other people's content and it's good quality content that's already had a lot of shares, it's already proven to be popular and to resonate with people, that actually boosts your ability to rank in the Pinterest algorithm. So it's definitely critical to share both your content and other people's content so that the Pinterest algorithm recognizes you as a user, as a user that contributes to the platform as a whole. Does that make sense?
Oh, yes,
Yeah.
Definitely. It's that whole social engagement. It's not just shouting. You're actually participating in the conversation at that point.
Exactly, yeah. So when it comes to the group boards, so the way group boards function is, let's say you post a piece of your content on there. People who follow you will see that content, but the people who follow everyone else who contributes to that board will also have the chance to see that content. So that's how it can really start to grow your traffic, because more and more people have the opportunity to see that piece of content.
Right, okay. So now, do you end up creating your own group boards, or are you just participating in already existing ones out there?
Oh, I definitely make my own. And for a lot of people, that's probably the easiest way to start to create a following or to get followers, is to start their own group boards and to invite other pinners on there. So for me, I like doing it because the more people who pin on my boards, and I don't just accept anybody, I accept people who I know are going to share quality content. But the more people like that I can bring to my group boards, the more likely my content is to be followed and be seen by their users, their followers.
Right, exactly. So when you started to scale things up, how many group boards did you end up using to do it? Was it just a handful, or did you like create a couple hundred?
No, I didn't create a couple hundred. It's interesting that you ask that question because I have quite a few group boards. But here's the thing. This is the 80-20 rule of online marketing, which is, 80% of your effort or 80% of your results are going to come from 20% of your efforts. So I personally only focus on the boards, whether they're my own boards or group boards, that are actually bringing people to my website. And I have courses that teach people how to do that. It's a lot to explain, so I don't want to confuse your listeners. But when someone's on Pinterest, just remember that look at what's actually producing results for you and just do more of that. Does that make sense?
Oh yes, definitely. Well, that's always that. It's commonly, or however you want to put that, as simple as it sounds. That's really what it boils down to. Anything that, in terms of success, if something's working, do more of it. Plain and simple.
Exactly. And so when it comes to my success and scaling my success on Pinterest, that's really kind of what it comes down to is I looked at what was actually producing results, which boards were producing results, which particular pins are producing results, which articles are actually producing results, the articles on the blog, and just continue to promote that material.
Okay. And that makes total sense because that's what you really need to do. So you're obviously promoting blog content there. How is that received on Pinterest? Because I think a lot of people there, they can have a misconception and think Pinterest is just about pictures, but how is it working for a blog post?
It's interesting because I've been using Pinterest so long that I don't think of it that way, but I guess the rest of the world does. So for me, Pinterest, it actually is not about pictures. The people that I know that use it, the people who follow me and use it, they use it as a way to answer questions that they have, just like they would with Google. So you might Google chicken recipes for dinner. Well, people go on Pinterest and do the exact same thing. So if you have articles about that, you're going to draw those people in. So I think maybe once upon a time it was used for pretty pictures, but at this point it's more used to answer search queries.
Interesting. As I think that's something that people might not have ever thought about, that people will go to Pinterest to search for solutions just like they would in Google.
Yeah, it's really interesting actually that you brought that up because it's again, I've used Pinterest so much that I don't think of it that way, but you just gave me a really good sort of insight into how everybody else uses Pinterest, which will help me help people use Pinterest better.
Right, because that's one of those challenges is, being in the marketing world, you're just sort of assuming, well, everybody should look at it this way. And then you have to take that step back and think, oh, wait, they don't. They see it differently. Or there's those misperceived notions about a platform because people haven't used it in a long time, or they just never had success. You think about how many times when you're working with clients, you hear someone say, oh, I tried that before, it didn't work.
Yeah. I hear that sometimes when it comes to Pinterest and like students or clients that I have, and they usually have not followed my advice when I get that response.
Right, that's usually how it goes. Like, well, did you follow it? Well, no. And of course, like, what do you expect?
Exactly.
There's not any shortcuts. If you're going to, create success and someone's already done it, follow the blueprint. Don't try to reinvent the wheel. First, create the success, and then you can improve upon it at that point. But until then, just do whatever someone's telling you to do. If it means post X amount per day, do it on these particular places, create this number of boards, do it.
Exactly. Yeah, exactly. And to me, Pinterest is a pretty easy platform to handle once you have a good idea of how it works, So people think, you need to spend 3 hours a day on Pinterest. I spend maybe half an hour tops a day.
whoa. Time out. Half hour a day? Because I think there's some people out there that they fall into Pinterest hell where they wake up and realize, my day is gone. I just wanted to look up a chicken recipe, and before I know it, I'm looking at pictures of kittens, and the day's gone.
Yeah, I spend half an hour a day between probably about 7 in the morning and 8 in the morning, my time, using Pinterest. And that's, and I don't use the whole hour. I only use about half an hour. And that's really all it takes. People think you have to pin 75 pins a day, and you got to use this board thing to boost your pins, and you got to do it all day long. You don't. Like, I'm living proof that you don't, and you don't have to get lost in Pinterest hell to do it.
Right. Because I think some people are like, wait, 30 minutes a day? Like, you go, oh my gosh, I can't even spend 30 minutes a day on anything. So in that 30 minutes, like on a typical day, like how many pins are you reposting or content you're posting yourself?
Well, my content, I did that this morning because I know people are going to ask me this question from here on out. So this morning, I actually calculated it. I probably share about 30 pins of my own content and probably about 10 to 20 pins of other people's content. So it's very different from what other Pinterest experts tell you to do. They tell you to share, just a couple of yours and like 10 of other people's, or, whatever they say. My method is very, very different, but it's also very, very effective. I have students that have had 200 page views a day. In the span of 3 or 4 days, get 4,000 page views a day following this method. So we know it works.
Yeah, no kidding. Oh my gosh. I'm glad I'm sitting down right now because in terms of success, you think about how many programs out there where, I don't want to say people are struggling, but they have a hard time getting their message out there. Yet here's a system that when they follow it, they start seeing immediate results. And that's impressive.
Thank you. Yeah, when people follow this system, they see results. I had another client. She followed some suggestions I made and made a couple of simple tweaks to some of her pins. And this particular article had been getting, maybe, 300 or 400 views a day. It got 38,000 in a span of 3 days. I mean, that's impressive even to me.
Wow.
I know. I said to her, and all you did was change the length of your pins? Are you sure that's all you did? She said, yeah, that's all I did. And I was like, man, that's amazing. Like, that's amazing even to me.
Wow. I'm just flabbergasted. There's my big word of the day. Like, holy crap. Because normally, if you think about that type of results, you might hear from people that they spent a certain amount of ad dollars on Facebook traffic, but this was all organic, correct?
Yes. I tell people not to promote their pins on Pinterest. Don't pay for it. You don't have to. And I've done it in the past, and I've never made my money back. So the ROI on it for me was very, very poor compared to what you can do for free.
Wow, that's incredible. So then, what type of businesses does this work for? Because there might be some people thinking, oh, well, that's for that type of business, not for me. What have you seen be successful in terms of the businesses that they should use this for, and others that might be a little bit in the gray area?
It works for all businesses. It really does. We've worked with online marketers. We've worked with bloggers. We've worked with people who sell online courses. It works for everybody, but the key thing is that you have to have blog posts that you're willing to promote. That's really the difference. Pinterest does not appreciate when people share like opt-in pages. So like lead pages, for example, it will kill your traffic pretty quickly. So if somebody's not willing to take the time to write blog posts, they're going to have a tough time standing out in Pinterest.
Okay, that makes total sense. In today's world, if you look at it across any platform, people want content because I think more and more people are getting tired of being just sold to. But you think about how many times you think, oh, that looks amazing. Oh, enter your name and email for this great information. Like, I don't even know you. You're asking me for my phone number. And the world has to change.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, people are more savvy and they're getting hit from all angles. And in order to build that relationship with people, you have to engage them. You have to give them free information. You have to tell them why that you can help them before they're willing to hand over their email address or hand over money. I have premium programs that cost several $1,000s. Those people want to know that I can actually help them before they're willing to hand over their money. It's the exact same thing. I tell people that you have to touch people more than once and give them
Right.
a reason to engage with you before you can actually ask them to give you something, whether it's an email address or dollars or whatever.
Right, exactly. I mean, it's so critical that you do that because otherwise, what's the point of it if you're going to miss out on the opportunities by building that relationship? So, when it comes to the content you're putting out there, like blog posts, have you found that certain length of posts work better than others? Because some people say, "Oh, you should have like a 300-word blog post if you're looking at SEO purposes." What really stands out on Pinterest when you're looking at it?
I haven't really noticed that one length does better than another length, but I always tell people, if you're going to go through the effort of creating a blog post, you might as well make it at least 800 words because you have a chance at the same time to repurpose that content to get found in search engines, and that's really the length that Google prefers. It's 800 words or more, in my experience. So that's sort of the minimum I tell people. And at the same time, if you're going to try to get a user's email address, if you're going to try and engage them and take the conversation further, you want to give them a little bit more information than you can give them in 300 words.
Right, exactly. And to people who don't even think about it, it might sound like 300 words is a lot, but if you really look at it, it's hardly anything.
Yeah.
You're talking about
it's not very
2 to
long.
3 paragraphs, and that's it.
Yeah, I was talking to a blogger earlier today. She was asking me for advice, and she said, "Well, what can I do?" And I said, "Your blog posts are beautiful. You have beautiful photos. I get exactly the information you promised, but they're way too short. If you want to," she wanted to be an affiliate marketer, and I said, if you want people to click the links and buy the products that you're recommending, the fashions that you're recommending, it needs to be a lot longer so that they stay on the page longer, they see the ads longer, and they realize that you really do know what you're talking about and that you're not just looking for that quick buck.
Right, exactly. If people are looking for those quick buck hacks out there, oh, sure, they're out there, but they don't last long term.
Exactly. I mean, we all know those websites where they curate content and they'll put, 10 blog posts up a day and it's like 3 sentences and then they send you to some other link. And, they get thousands and thousands of hits a month, but that's all, the only thing that they want is ad revenue. They don't really want to, make any more money other than that off of it.
Right, exactly. Versus building up that rapport and relationship. So based on that, when you're looking at the data of the pins that you put out there, the ones that you started doing, like when you first made this big shift in how you're using Pinterest, are those original pins still generating traffic for you today?
Absolutely. Actually, believe it or not, yeah, absolutely. There are some pins that I pin like a year and a half ago, maybe, that every day still send me about 300 or 400 people a day, and we're talking like 10 or 15 pins that are still doing this. I mean, some of the very first blog posts I wrote are still sending 500 people a day to my website. I mean, and these numbers are not exaggerated. That I'll put them up on a website any day of the week for people to look at. So it's really, the ROI on it is really, really incredible.
That is incredible. That just blows me away because you hear about so many people that they'll go through these different courses to be found on via SEO, which is important, but then they're laboring 6-7 months consistently to just start getting found. Yet here's the shortcut just by following a recipe to jump to the head of the line in terms of getting content out there.
Yeah. I mean, Pinterest is really, I'm good with SEO. I'm good with Google. I can rank articles in, 24 to 48 hours, but I get better traffic from Pinterest without a doubt.
Right. Because, you start looking at the people that are actively there, they're searching for things consistently versus, you're getting found on Google, but this is just it's a traffic source you have to take advantage of.
Well, think about it, because on Google, there's only 10 spots on that page one, and we all know that page one is going to get the most traffic. I mean, after that,
Right.
it kind of really, amortizes down. So there's only 10 spots on there. So you're fighting with 9 other people. But on Pinterest, anybody can be number one. Anybody can come up in a search query. As long as there's certain other elements in there, but it's not the same labor intensive way or the same sort of exclusivity that you find when you're trying to rank in Google.
Right, exactly. So now, with that in mind, what are some of those things that people just need to keep in mind? Like, if they decide that they're listening to this, realize, okay, I need to start using Pinterest. What should be those things they should do before they just start pushing out content left and right? That kind of like basic action plan, the steps they should take before jumping in.
That's a really good question. Well, you should definitely know how to make pins, and you can use a platform called Canva for that. It's Canva. They have templates on there that people can use. The other thing is, there's not really actually too many things you should do. You should have your blog post, you should have your pins, you should have a description. Obviously, you need a Pinterest profile, but you should have a description for your pin. And you should have some keywords in there. Your keywords can be short tail keywords, unlike Google, where Google, you want to go for long tail keywords. In Pinterest, you can use short tail keywords and get away with it. So that's probably it. You need a profile. You need to understand Pinterest. You need to understand how to repin stuff. And you need to know how to make a board. And then you're pretty good to go.
Oh, wow. It doesn't sound like there's that much there. So obviously with making pins, since there's quite a variety of images. Have you seen a certain pin size that works better than others? Because, some people might just think, well, I'm just going to go to my website and just share the current image that I have on a blog post. Should people do that, or should they create something specifically for Pinterest?
You definitely want to create something specifically for Pinterest. The size that I like, the size that we've had the most success with, is 700 pixels by 2,000 pixels. And people say, that's really long. How am I going to fill it up? You'll figure out a way to fill it up. Believe me, everybody does. And this is the thing that remember the story I told you about the one woman who, she made one small tweak to her pins and she went from like 200 views a day to like 39,000 views in 3 days. Mm-hmm. All she did was change the length of her pins. And wow. She said, I can't fill up that much space. It's so much space. And I said, you'll figure it out. Believe me. Like, here's some examples. You'll figure it out. And she literally was like, I cannot believe how much traffic I'm getting. And she was making like $100, $150 a day in ad revenue. She was making a lot of money.
Wow. Who would have ever imagined one simple little tweak could have that big of an impact?
Yeah, I'm laughing a little bit because every student who takes my course, they've all been like, I cannot believe that this is the only thing. And it's not the only thing, but they're like, I can't believe that this is what I've been missing. I can't believe that I've been dawdling around for 5 years trying to get traffic to my website. And all I had to do was just do a few simple things. And now I'm getting, more traffic than I've gotten in the past 3 years combined.
Right. Wow. That still just blows me away. I'm glad I'm sitting down right now. It's like 38,000 views.
That was surprising to me. That was surprising to me also. That's a lot of traffic, and that's viral,
Right, because in my mind, if someone has the things set up properly on their website, what that leads to is you think of the number of email opt-ins that it can get you, people going into your funnel, and all that leads to. So if that was just one piece of content, imagine what happens if someone's producing content consistently every single week and promoting it properly.
Yeah, and that's what she's doing now. She's every article. I tell people, start with your most popular articles first, or the most helpful ones, the ones that you actually want to promote. Do those first, and then go ahead and fix the rest of them. So that's what this particular person is doing now, and she's. She had the viral moments, and obviously once things go viral, they stop going viral after a while. But even so, she's now managed to triple her traffic in the span of 30 days just by consistently promoting the longer pins.
Wow. Now, that's impressive. So with content, have you seen it in terms of your students in the courses, even leverage video as part of the pin?
Yes, you can leverage video. What I suggest, and actually I had this question this morning too, on a thread that I was on Facebook. You can promote video. What I recommend is putting that video, embedding it in a blog post, and then giving people an idea of what they'll learn in the video and what it's about and what they can get from it. And then promoting a pin to that particular blog post page on Pinterest. The reason I recommend that is because let's say you send them to Facebook or you send them to YouTube. There's 30,000 other things on those platforms for people to look at besides your video, right?
Right.
So if you send them directly to a blog post on your page, you can make sure that they actually watch the video. It's sort of like a squeeze page, so to speak. But you can also collect their email addresses, which you can't do on the other platforms.
Right. Wow, now that's just incredible because most of the time when you hear people talking about sharing content, say, oh yeah, just share your YouTube video straight on there, you can do all these things, but they forget about that key process of step to capture people's email and controlling their experience. So they're not going over to look at cat videos right after watching yours.
Exactly, and that's sort of, I think, the way that I differ from, I don't know, maybe other people who talk about Pinterest, I'm not sure, but I really focus on monetizing it. It's one thing to have 60,000 views a month. It's another thing to actually turn that into money, right? So that's the difference. That's what I really try to focus on is getting the traffic, but then creating an experience where you can actually turn that into money, into a buyer.
Right. So that's definitely something we have to talk about here briefly. It's all these things up to now, this is great. Now we know Pinterest is really good to get people to look at your website. What in the world should people be doing to monetize it? I mean, you think of your student who had 38,000 views, suddenly that's a flood of traffic. What should someone be doing on their website?
You have to have, well, I guess you'd asked me what you should have in place before you start employing Pinterest as a traffic driver. And I guess actually one thing you should have in place is some sort of a funnel. So that's what I go through with all of my students also. So the woman who got 38,000 views in 3 days, she had a funnel in place. So she had a way to collect their email addresses. She already had products to sell them. So that's one thing that you need to have in place. It's one thing to have all the email addresses, but you have to have something to sell them, right?
Right. So with your one student there, what was the benefit she received, like in terms of email subscribers, things like that, for the amount of views in terms of conversions? Did she share that with you?
She shared a little bit of me. She got 100 plus email addresses a day onto her list. So that was good in and of itself. And then she did tell me that she has a $30 ebook that she sells as the first funnel offer. And she told me that she got pretty good conversions on it. I don't know the exact amount. I didn't go into that much detail with her because I didn't want to, sort of ask her financial information, if that makes sense. We have a good relationship, but it's not that good. But I tried to collect as much data as I could to share with people. And so she got really good conversion rates, and she sold a number of books that she didn't think that she was going to sell otherwise. So it was a nice little end to 2016 for her.
Okay. Oh, excellent. And if you think about that, especially if you can start getting several thousand views per day from Pinterest, and if you have the right type of funnel, if you're getting, let's say, 100 email opt-ins every day or every couple days, if you start working the numbers, that could add up substantially. If you have that low dollar offer that leads to something that's mid-tier to lead to a higher tier program, there's someone doesn't have to do very many other things.
Yeah. I mean, if you know your conversion rate, so I know the conversion rates on the particular website that we're talking about. I know the conversion rates on it. So so when they come into the funnel, how many people will subscribe? How many people will buy the first offer that I make them? I know those conversion rates. So because I know that, I can scale up or down, obviously. So if you know the conversion rates that you are already getting, you're gonna have to play with it a little bit once you start getting traffic from Pinterest. But you can have a pretty good idea of how that will affect your bottom line.
Right. Now, with Pinterest, since you're really looking at these, with what you're doing, your students, what's a conversion rate that people should be shooting for in terms of converting, as long as they have a good offer, obviously, from traffic from Pinterest?
What the way I can answer that is because everyone's conversion rate is going to be different based on what their offer is, the price of the offer, what they're selling. What I can tell you is that when I collect email addresses, they obviously, are given some sort of opt-in, and then they get immediately an offer to buy a product. The conversion rate on that cold page, that cold traffic page, is 17% for that particular product. So, that I think that's pretty good for a cold traffic page. That's, the very first offer that they're ever made when they meet me.
Right.
So, when it comes to sales funnels, we look on the first page for the first offer for anything from 10 to 20%. So I'm happy with 17.
Yeah, that's really good.
Yeah, obviously, you want to look at it and try to tweak it as much as you can, but that's sort of where it's sitting at right now. It's been sitting there for, the past 6 months.
Oh, that's excellent. I mean, and especially from the fact that it's free traffic. Mm-hmm. You can't beat that, because you think about how many people will spend thousands of dollars every single month to accomplish the same thing. And you're doing it with free. So when you think about barriers to entry out there where someone says, oh, they can't, they can't afford ads, they can't do this. Sounds like they should be taking your course and learn how to leverage that traffic that's already on Pinterest. Yeah,
it's definitely an easy source of free traffic. And I tell people, you get out of it what you put into it. So it's just like anything else in life. You have to put the effort in. You have to follow the plan. You have to take it seriously. But if you do, there's a lot of reward to be reaped from that.
Right. Oh, definitely. Okay. It all makes sense when you do things in that fashion. So as we wrap up everything, what's one thing you would recommend people to do if they decided after listening to everything, like, oh my gosh, I need to be using Pinterest? What's one thing that they should be doing, or it's like a must?
What people should be doing is get familiar with the platform. There's a lot of people who know that they should be on it, but they don't understand how it works. So I really recommend, using it, get familiar with it, and then from there you can start to really understand and learn about the strategies to capitalize on it.
Right. Excellent. So now how can people learn more about the course that you have and then ultimately take it and also learn more from you?
Yeah, I actually have 5 days of free training for your listeners.
Oh, excellent.
Yeah, if they go to teammaat, maat.com/Pinterest, they can go ahead and grab a free 5-day training that will show them the basics of everything that they need to know.
Oh, excellent. That is awesome. And then how can they follow you on social media to see what you're doing?
Yeah, you can follow me on Facebook at facebook.com/teammaat, MAAT. And then my website is teammaat.com.
Awesome. Well, I want to thank you for coming onto the Big Movement podcast today, because you've shared so many nuggets of wisdom. Like, I'm glad I can type fast to be able to take note of all of them here.
Well, thank you for having me on. I've really enjoyed it.
Thanks for listening to the Big Movement Podcast today. And be sure to subscribe so you don't miss an episode. Now that you've surely been inspired to take your entrepreneurial career and business to the next level, you can stop by the website and get more. And if you're ready to boost your business brand, be sure to grab your free report, 7 Easy Steps to Build Your Brand Today.